Tony Swantek. So excited for you to be here and to have this conversation with you again. I know I always drag you in. I'm like, can we have another chat and then another chat? And I don't know when that's going to stop, but I'm grateful that you always have a conversation with me.
It's always good to be here, Nick. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So today I want to pick your brains and talk about the Rally blockchain and the R-Link project specifically. So I want to go there. But before we do, can you give everyone who's listening a bit of a background? When I first got connected with you, heard about where you'd been spending your time, things that you had been building, things that you accomplished. Really impressive. And when I mean by building, I mean building businesses into the billions. And when I say that, I think when you hear that, we nearly disassociate with it because it's so big that, I mean, I've never done anything like that, you know? So I say the billions and it's like, what does that mean? Because it's so far away from what most people have ever done. But it's incredibly impressive. So I just want to touch on that for everybody who maybe doesn't know your background. Let us know, where have you spent your time in business? What have you built? And how did you move into the blockchain space?
Sure. I'll give you the short version of of that, I guess, as short as I can. And, I'm newer to the blockchain space. I think over the last 2 years, really, I've been pretty aggressive into blockchain. I'm more a serial entrepreneur. I started out as a network marketer, building sales teams through different companies, and have built some big ones. I had an organization over 1 million people in 167 countries. Did really well in that industry, and then diversified. I started to invest in restaurants. Through that, I got into restaurant delivery, kind of like an Uber Eats or a DoorDash. We built a company called My Town To Go. That was back in 2016. There was an Inc. 500 company here in the United States doing $30-40 million a year in revenue. We ended up merging with delivery.com in 2020 with that company. We started over 100 different businesses. We've probably got about 40 that are operational right now, from credit card processing firm that's pretty large. Started a marketing company. And then our biggest company is a tax credit company, like a business tax credit company. It's an accounting firm in the United States called Jorns and Associate. Jorns and Associates, that actually Justin Jorns was my CPA for like 15 years. And then we partnered up to create Jorns and Associates. He and I went to kindergarten together. They say you should always trust your accountant.
Oh, wow.
And then graduated high school. So we went way back. But that company was the largest one I've built to date. We did over $10 billion in tax credit filings our first 24 months in business, around $2 billion in profit. 1,000 employees, contractors, all around offices throughout the United States. And at that time, I'd been involved in crypto. 2013, I started buying Bitcoin. I liked the concept. I actually read the white paper or a summary of the white paper on a CNET blog. I got an email somehow. I'm not that techie, but it was 2010. And I liked the idea of limited supply, proof of work. I understood the trust and transparency. I don't think anybody knew it would become what it's become, but I think just the concept made sense. Unfortunately, I wasn't tech savvy enough to start mining Bitcoin in 2010. That would have been a good time to do it. But really, 2013, a friend of mine was doing online gaming, and you couldn't really do it in the United States. So I was like, what? You can't get money to and from the sites. Like, why are you gambling if you can't get the money out? And he's like, well, it's Bitcoin. I'm not using the banks. And I was like, Bitcoin? I was like, dude, I read about that a few years ago. I was like, how are you using it? And he showed me, and I started buying. And then, really about 2017, I started trading. A friend of mine created a trading software company. And then in 2018, he had told me to buy some nodes in a project called Gala Games. And I remember the first question I had was, what the heck's a node? Like, I don't know what that is. And he said, well, it's software. You put it on your computer, and this company will pay you to basically borrow your computer power. And I remember I said, well, how much do they pay? And he said, well, they give you these tokens. They were called Gala tokens. The project was called Gala Games. He said, they give you these Gala tokens. I said, well, how much is a Gala token worth? And he said, well, right now, nothing. And I just remember I said, well, this sounds amazing. You're gonna, you're gonna borrow my computer and then give me magic internet money that has no value. And he goes, well, it has no value now, but if people start playing these games and they start using this token, it could be extremely valuable. So long story, the short version is I needed to call him back to complete a transaction. I was going to buy like $10,000 worth of these nodes, just because he was a friend, and I was just, whatever, I'll give it a shot. And I didn't call him back. I forgot. I was busy, I had other stuff going on. And then about a year and a half after I forgot to call him back, he started posting about the Gala project. Oh, Gala Games and crypto and Gala and blockchain and nodes. And I was like, I messaged him and he's like, we need to get on a Zoom at that time. And he got on and he said, man, he goes, there's millions of people playing these games. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I've been selling my tokens over the last month and a half, 2 months. And I said, how much have you sold? And he said, a little over $40 million worth. And I was like, get out of here. And he just showed me his trading and his Binance account. And I was like, holy cow, you've sold over $40 million worth. And then another friend of ours that had started the project, I said, how much has he made off of this? And he said a little over $4.3 billion.
Wow.
And I chalked it up as a missed opportunity. It wasn't the first. Unfortunately, it won't be the
Just
last,
like
but
that.
that was just, it's just life. I mean, what else are you going to do? I think all of us have been at the right place at the right time in our lives and maybe didn't realize it,
Yeah.
or maybe kind of realized it, but didn't take action,
Yeah.
or enough action as we should have. And so, I built other businesses. We built the biggest business we'd ever had with the accounting firm. And right after we got, to about that 10 billion mark in
Uh-huh.
tax credit filings, that's when Wright reached out to me and wanted me to help drive revenue through blockchain projects, which I was intrigued by that. That's
Yeah.
something that had never really been done. I think, blockchain, a lot of us think of the meme coins and speculative investing. You're buying a coin, it's not worth anything. You hope it's going to be worth a lot.
Mhm.
And that's really all you have, is you and your community have hope. And there's nothing right or wrong about speculative investing. It is what it is. But I look at someone like a Warren Buffett, who's the best known value investor in history, probably, and he doesn't like Bitcoin. But it's
Mhm.
not because it's a cryptocurrency or blockchain technology. He doesn't like any speculative investments. He doesn't like real estate speculation. He doesn't like oil ETFs or futures, speculation. He doesn't like any type of speculative investment. He likes value, and
Mhm.
he understands value. And so, with our blockchain, being able to explain how a company can drive revenue through a blockchain is something that I think is going to really shift the way the world looks at blockchain technology here in the very near future.
Absolutely. 100%. And we're going to dive into that a little bit because I think it's a key part that I know I think I understood that to a degree. And anyone who's in business, you kind of understand, exchanging value in the market, selling real products and services that people need,
Sure.
people want, solves a problem is how you generate revenue. That's the fundamentals of it. But it was this
Yeah.
underlying infrastructure of blockchain, which I didn't understand. And so I kind of was like, oh, blockchain, crypto, put it in the same basket. I don't know. I'd love to
Sure.
know from you, Tony, what was it? And maybe it was a conversation you had, maybe it was the sting of not calling back and buying your nodes, but what was it that you saw within blockchain, or maybe this project specifically with Rally Blockchain, Rlink project, that has someone like you go, yep, that's worth my full force. I'm going to put my time, my resources, my money, even your credibility, like to be able to say, I'm not just comfortable, but I'm confident to go in and build this out in this space. Can you highlight some things there?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think obviously, missing out on a huge opportunity. The Gala project hit a $40 billion market cap in 2021. They had days where their market cap was higher than Tesla. And it shouldn't have been that high. But again, if you're holding their token, you wouldn't care why the value of the token was so high, you would care that the value was so high. As long as you sell it and put the money in your pocket, it's like, hey, we're worth more than Tesla right now as a company, which is crazy. But having seen that was painful, that I missed out on it, but I also think it was a lesson learned, and I did learn from that blockchain could be extremely explosive when it
Mhm.
came to the level of revenue generation and valuation compared to traditional markets. I think the other thing when I first started to look at this community really in depth, it was October of 2023. Jorns, our accounting firm, had just gone over, let's say, 10 billion in tax credit filings. And I remember Wright said, hey, we want you to drive revenue. We want you to see what we're doing. I was so busy that normally I was turning down meetings and I just didn't have time for anything. But because I knew them and because I
Mm.
saw what they had done a few years prior, I said, listen, I'll give you a day. I was flying into LA to do meetings. Then I was going to fly back to Kansas. One of my houses is there. And then they said, can you stop in Vegas on the way back home for a day? And I said, absolutely. So I stopped in, and I remember they had all these different blockchain projects. There was like, really at that time, probably 8 projects they showed me, 8 to 10, maybe 10 projects. And a couple of them were really impressive. Um, but they seemed like heavy lifts. But I remember, and I'll explain that here shortly, but I remember they had a banking blockchain. And when the CEO came in, I knew who she was. She didn't know me, but I had a credit card processing company that still do, I guess, is pretty good size. And this lady, her name's Kathy Roberts. And I knew her because she was one of the original founders of Discover Card. And
Mhm.
she was the first president of Discover Bank. And so when I see one of the more influential bankers of our lifetime, like if you've ever gotten like cash back on a credit card, it's because of Kathy Roberts. Like they created that type of rewards type program. And so all the other credit card companies had to match suit or you wouldn't use them anymore. You want to get the rewards. And so um, I'm sitting there in a room where blockchain it's not a friendly environment in the US at that time. The banking world and blockchain go together like oil and water. They don't get along. And here I've got one of the more influential bankers of my lifetime talking about blockchain. So I went up to her, and for probably 20 minutes, she just kind of shared her insights. And she said, honestly, I said,
Mm.
Miss Roberts, I said, I got to be honest, I'm surprised to see you here talking about blockchain, coming from the banking world, and where banking and blockchain are kind of at right now. And she said, Tony, I truly believe blockchain technology within the next 5 to 10 years will make everyone on planet Earth bankable. And I didn't think a lot about unbankable. As you research, there's about 3 billion people on the planet that cannot open a bank account. Many because they're in, certainly poor countries, third world. But many of them are in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sydney, Australia, Melbourne. Like it doesn't matter where they're at in the world. There's people literally in your neighborhood probably that cannot open a bank account. And if you have a solution for that problem, I feel like that's going to be a very valuable solution. Now, the reason I came in so aggressively on what we would call the Rally blockchain, and really kind of help to bring a communications blockchain to this community, to this ecosystem, was I felt like, for lack of a better term, it was low hanging fruit.
Mm.
Um, and what I mean by that is, to decentralize banking is quite the undertaking. You have to work with the existing banking infrastructure and the existing, for lack of a better term, banking cabal to be able to utilize blockchain and banking together. And at any point, the existing banking infrastructure can shove you right out the door. And then you got to go find a new relationship to get back tied in. And then they'll shove you out the door and you got to find a new one. And again, I think eventually you'll find the right ones, you'll get through it.
Yeah.
And we have a banking blockchain that's doing very well. But it's still a little bit of an uphill climb. to decentralize the entire banking infrastructure of the world. Communications, I looked at really Zoom was a pretty prime target for us. Video conferencing as a whole, we felt like you had an industry that was large. You know, Zoom's one of the biggest players. They have 300 million users a day on Zoom, $28 billion market cap, but no loyalty.
Mm.
And that was something I hadn't really seen in a lot of different industries. There's a lot of loyalty in a lot of big industries around the world. You know, you take someone's iPhone away from them, it's like, oh, you know, they're Apple people, like
Yeah.
they're tied in. That's a big brand. You know, there's a lot of loyalty in that space. Um, Cars, I'm a Range Rover guy or Ferrari guy, not a Lamborghini guy, like whatever. It's like you've got loyalty in those industries. I fly American, I fly Delta, I fly Qantas, like whatever. You've got loyalty in those industries. I stay at the Ritz, I stay at the Four Seasons, I stay at the Holiday Inn, I stay at the Marriott. Like, ooh, there's loyalty. I used Zoom back in the day. That was probably my favorite platform.
Hmm.
But if you sent me a link for Teams and you were doing a meeting with me and it was your meeting, I clicked on it. Teams is
Didn't matter.
fine. If you sent me a link for Google Meet, we're going to be on Google Meet. If you sent join.me, if you sent GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, we'd be on whatever link you wanted me to be on. I could care less. As long as we do our meeting and we're here, we'll be fine.
Hmm.
I felt like we could change that, and we could actually create loyalty in an industry where none had existed. And I felt
Mm.
like if we beat the Zooms of the world on price point, we beat them on presenting and converting sales, and then utilizing blockchain, we beat them on the ability to own and control your own data, and more importantly, monetize that data, make money
Yeah.
off of it. I felt like we had an opportunity to go on offense in a massive industry. And that's really what we started to do. And I think it's probably why we have the fastest growing blockchain in our community. And I think here, as we come out of beta, we'll have one of the fastest growing blockchains in history if we continue the trajectory.
Yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit further because I think it's really important to like just understanding, we talk about say Zoom, Google Meet, some of these other kind of legacy video conferencing companies, right? In this kind of centralized operation. Why would they choose this one over Zoom? And I know you've touched on a few things, but more importantly, in the back end, when we're talking about blockchain, we're talking about what's really being created here for those who are involved, for those who own nodes, for those who use the platform, who participate. How is it the sustainable option versus how is it different to the hype? The hype fueled tokens and the crypto that goes on out there that most people are flooded with.
Yeah, I think, the vast majority of exposure to crypto is a meme coin.
Yeah.
And what I look at when I think of those meme coins, the ICO craze, um,
Hmm.
it's we've got this idea, and we're gonna launch a coin, sell our coin to everybody, and we're gonna give ourselves a bunch of that coin, and then we're telling people, hey, if you buy this coin, we're going to build this cool platform. We're going to build this cool service, this cool product. And when we do, the coin's going to be worth a lot. And they hype it up. A bunch of people start buying the coin, and then they sell their coins to all those people that are buying, that are excited. And they never build the platform or the product or the service that they got everybody excited about. And I think unfortunately many of them never planned on building it. Like they didn't even try and build it. Didn't knew they weren't going to build it. What we did was the opposite. Like we built the platform first. We never had an ICO. If you look at the top 500 cryptocurrencies in the world, I only know two of them that had never done an ICO and or never had any investors. Bitcoin is one. Gala Games, which was our community's project, is the other one.
Is the other.
And I think when the Rally blockchain gets into the top 500 coins on coin market cap, we'll be the third of the top 500 that never had an ICO, never had an investor. We have no ownership. Like technically, we have voting rights. Like through node
Yeah.
ownership, if I own
Hmm.
nodes, I get to vote. If I hold tokens, that's a branch of governance. I get to vote. If I'm a community builder and I build revenue and bring users and use it myself, I get votes. And
Hmm.
each branch of governance, there's 3 branches, they each make up a third of the voting rights. And so if I had a choice to save, which on business, I save about $3,000 a year using my R-Link account versus using my Zoom account. So the savings was a no-brainer for me. We're getting ready to launch the white label version. So having my own branded video conferencing platform. So like our accounting firm, Jorns and Associates, it'll have our Jorns branding, our Jorns color scheme. It'll be rally.jornstax.com/Tony. It'll have our web domain. And so my clients can stay inside my brand from start to finish. I don't have to
Yeah.
send them to Zoom. I don't have to send them to Google Meet. I don't have to send them to Microsoft Teams. I'm sending them to my Jorns Tax video conferencing platform. And on the white label, I'll save 2,000 a year over Zoom.
Hmm.
So maybe I don't save 3 grand, but I've got my own label. I would pay more probably for my own label. So price is so much stronger. And then we can present inside the platform, being able to pull up a call to action button and say, hey, everybody, if you're interested in purchasing the products and services I'm selling, whether it's the R-Link platform, the video conferencing platform. Maybe I'm in real estate. I want you to set up a private, showing for the new listing. Maybe I'm selling health and wellness products, peptides, whatever. If I say, hey, you want to buy our peptides, click buy now. And right on everybody's screen, a big buy now button pops up and says, buy your peptides now. Click the buy now button. Boom. That's so much more effective than sending them to a chat. Oh, I'm going to type a link in the chat. Everybody click on that web address and then scroll halfway down, click learn more, and then scroll halfway down, click sign up, and then scroll down and start entering your information. You lose. We've done split testing. You lose so many conversions and so
Mm.
many sales when you send them away from your platform. With our link, you close at about 75 to 80% higher ratio if you can close inside the platform. Hey, click the buy now button that just popped up on your screen. Doesn't matter how big your meeting gets, everyone sees the buy now button. The
It's
bigger the
massive. Yeah.
meeting, the lower the conversion if you send them outside of the meeting. And
Hmm.
so I look at price point, I look at the ability to present and convert, and then I look at blockchain. The fact that we own the platform versus Zoom owning the platform. I mean, Zoom in March through August of 2023, they shared everyone's data with their AI. And people got upset about it. But what were you going to do? Go to Google Meet, go to Microsoft Teams? Those guys are better at mining data than Zoom is.
Hmm.
And so I'm looking at this going, if we can give people a choice and say, listen, you can own and control your own data, you can monetize that data, and we'll reward you just for using the platform and sharing it with others. I don't know why anyone would ever use Zoom again. I won't. And so that's really, I think, our huge advantage is you reward people. You pay them. For lack
Yeah.
of a better term, we bribe people to use our platform over Zoom's
Well,
not going to pay you anything for using their
absolutely.
platform.
It's really just a flip, isn't it? Like the way once I got my head wrapped around this, going from, oh yeah, like centralized kind of, one point of authority, extracting all the profit versus, okay, any value that's brought in gets distributed to those who own it, contribute to it, grow it, participate in it. I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. I think what we struggle to forget is that we've built the value of all of these other platforms. Like they're valuable
Yeah.
because of us.
Yeah.
But we don't gain value from them. We think we
Oh, we
do,
got
like,
nothing.
yes, we need to use these things and all of that. But there's no real, there's no real value that we've literally put in, millions, billions of dollars worth. It doesn't flow back to us, but we created the thing,
Right.
the whole value.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's typical, right?
Yeah.
Because we've been in this Web 2 environment where all the control, all the leadership, all the ownership is huge corporations, huge entrepreneurs that control everyone's data. And now all of a sudden this blockchain technology comes that we can say, hey, We don't have to go with the status quo. You have a
Yep.
choice. You don't have to have Mark Zuckerberg make trillions of dollars off of all of our data. You can make, if I had a choice to make $328 a year off of my data or continue to let Zuckerberg just make trillions, give me 328. Like it's not a lot of money, but it's
Absolutely.
$328 more than I got last year
Yep.
from it, you know? So
Yep.
that's I think that's for me, I think once society knows they have a choice,
That's what I
that
was going to
they can
ask.
control that data. I think that's the
Yeah.
key. Who wouldn't choose that?
You know, it's not yet out there as like this is fully known and I fully understand
Right.
this. And I think the more that people, you know, the everyday person, once we hear that, it becomes a no-brainer. But the barrier right now is helping educate on this space. Because for
For
you,
sure.
would you say knowing what you now know about blockchain, this fundamental, the infrastructure behind all of this, is it a matter of when, not if? Like this is where the world is going, and businesses either participate in this space and I kind of say, I always say, play in this new playground, or maybe there's going to be some repercussions of not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as I've gone down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and really dug in, I see so many similarities from where the internet was in the mid 90s and late
Mm,
90s to where blockchain is at today. And I think the term inevitability popped into my head pretty early as I was digging in October, November of 2023. The thought process was, I remember in the mid 90s, a company like Google, Yahoo was a big search engine that was popping up at that time. Amazon was getting going. And it was like we called them internet companies.
mm,
Oh yeah, they're an internet company out of Silicon Valley, one of the internet companies. We don't say that anymore. Like all companies are internet companies pretty much these days. Like my accounting firm, you can't mail me your payroll taxes. Like you load them up in your online repository. You sign into your portal. You have your own login account. You have your own, repository where you can load documents securely. And then our tax attorneys and our CPAs can access those documents. So we're an internet company. I mean, it is an accounting firm. Maybe the teenage kid that's mowing lawns in your neighborhood doesn't have a website, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did have a website. Almost all businesses are online now. They're all internet companies. Today, I tell people I'm working on a blockchain project or we
mhm,
have a blockchain company. I truly believe in the next few years, we'll never have to say that. Like all companies are going to be blockchain companies. All projects are going to be a blockchain project or they won't be very big projects. And so, the question becomes, I think, who are going to be the Apples,
mm.
the Amazons, the, PayPals, of the Googles of this blockchain, I think revolution that's really happening. The World Economic Forum in 2021 estimated that blockchain technology would disrupt up to $867 trillion in traditional markets. Now, that's not a once in a lifetime thing. That's a once thing.
Yeah.
And so I think as an entrepreneur, if you understand blockchain technology, and if you're brand new to it, I tell people do your due diligence. Listen, if you're bored,
Yes.
go to Google and Google blockchain voting patent. See who has the voting patent for blockchain technology. And when you Google blockchain voting patent, you'll see very quickly that the United States Postal Service has owned that patent for the last 5+ years.
Well,
Now, why would they own a blockchain voting patent? I can tell you, if you utilized blockchain to vote, you could eliminate voter fraud from the face of the planet Earth overnight. And in the United States, Australia, I mean, that would be important. Don't get me wrong. It'd be important. But in countries like Venezuela, in countries like Russia, where elections probably aren't going to the person that's winning them. You might be voting for someone and your vote's not getting counted. The blockchain would eliminate that.
Hmm.
You wouldn't need voter ID. You'd never have non-citizens voting. You'd log into your wallet, fully secured. You'd probably have a biometric. You'd use your fingerprint, use your iris, maybe a password on top of that, and then you could place your vote. It would be anonymous. It would show that it was your wallet ID that
Hmm.
placed the vote, but you would know it, you would see it, and you would see it get counted real time. You wouldn't have, like in the United States, I don't know how the Australian elections are, but like we'll have an election and like 3 days later, the state of Arizona is still counting votes, which is nuts. Blockchain, literally, the moment the last polls closed, the votes would be all counted. Like everything, like real time. You would see the voting real time, like at that time. And so I think, that's one use case for blockchain.
Yeah.
Obviously, owning data, Sam Altman, Bill Gates owning ChatGPT. I don't think those two guys, or even somebody like Elon Musk, who I do think is extremely magnanimous, but one person owning everyone's data that's going through a large language model like a chat gpt or a grok, it the ownership of that type of data, in my opinion, belongs to a blockchain community,
Hmm.
that you have a bunch of checks and balances versus one person, which so many times in history we've seen, where Mark Zuckerberg made a move that boom, all of our data got taken by a third party company because of, hey, this CEO made a decision and we had no say in that decision. No one would have wanted that decision to be made, other than maybe monetarily. Maybe Zuck wanted it to be made because he made a bunch of money off of it. But it's like that shouldn't be how our data gets disseminated, by one person's whim or one person's wallet making a decision. So I think a blockchain community can protect so many industries, even
Yes.
governance at the highest level, could manage and be done more efficiently through blockchain. It's just a matter of like you said, kind of, it's not if, it's when.
Hmm.
And then the next question is who, who's going to be the Apple, who's going to be the Amazon, who's going to be the Google. And I do think we've got a huge advantage over most of the industry because we've had, the number one performing cryptocurrency in the world during the last bull run in 2021 with our Gala Games
Yeah.
project. It does give us a pretty good advantage to have that kind of pedigree and experience,
Yeah.
because it's such a new industry. No one has experience, but we're one of the only ones that do. I'm in Puerto Rico. Dorado Beach is kind of we call it Crypto Rico down here. There's a lot of blockchainers, a lot of big crypto guys, and we see a lot of amazing projects. And it's funny, but talking to some of these guys, and when they look at what we're doing, most of them are saying, man, you guys are like light years ahead of us. Like
What do
we're
they
not even close to
see?
it yet.
What do they see that makes them say that, do you think?
Well, being able to create, a node network with hundreds of thousands of nodes that are already operational, doing close to 1 trillion transactions over the last decade. I don't know anyone that's built two layer one blockchains, any community that's built two solid layer one blockchains. We've built 14 in the last decade.
Yeah, it's
Like
massive.
our community is the number one by far layer one blockchain developer on planet Earth. The problem for us, and not that it's a problem, it's been kind of by design, is no one knows who we are. But we're
What's the
getting ready
reason
to
for
start
that?
telling our story. I think,
Is that
a
intentional?
lot of it was we wanted to isolate Gala, the community did when they started, because and not to downgrade gaming or anything like that, but we're kind of focused on making positive impacts,
Mm,
decentralizing banking, decentralizing food and agriculture,
yes.
decentralizing communications. Like I think it's a no-brainer. Like, do you want to own your data, or do you want Verizon to own your data, or T-Mobile to own your data, or Vodafone to own your data, or Mark Zuckerberg to own your data? It's like, yeah, I want to own my data. Well, blockchain can do that. So we have all these impactful projects that can empower people. And gaming was a kind of a project that we didn't care that much about because it wasn't that big of an impact. So we were like, let's run a test on our gaming blockchain, try and aggressively trade it, try and aggressively drive revenue through it. And next thing you know, we hit a $40 billion market cap. And so now we're at a point where we felt like, all right, do we have the products and services, and do we have the scalability in those products and services? And that's where we're getting close. But
Mm-hmm.
even now, the Arlink platform is still in beta. We've got
Yes.
about 1,000 users, a little over 1,000 users. We're adding another 5,000 users, I think, over the next few months, just in beta testing, just adding them on, seeing how it goes. And then we'll eventually want to open the floodgates and bring
Mm.
millions of clients in and let the world know who we are and what's going on. But, if you're, wanting to go out and have a grand opening for your store, but none of your, let's say you got a clothing store or whatever, none of the clothes have shipped in yet, you better not open. You better not have your
Yeah.
grand
You want to
opening
be
that day
ready.
because you got nothing to sell. If you're having a
Yeah.
big restaurant grand opening, but none of the food has arrived yet, or your chefs haven't gotten hired on and your waiters and waitresses aren't hired, you better not have your grand
Yeah.
opening that day. So we've been strategic about controlling our growth and controlling our visibility, because we have a lot of people that, honestly, we've had some people that come in pretty aggressively, start telling a little people around the world about what we're doing when they find out that we were part of the Gala Games community. Like, that was one of our projects. In the blockchain world, people get excited about that. So we've tried to kind of
Mm.
keep it on the down low, because the last thing we want with something like Rlink, as an example, I don't want to add 1 million new users tomorrow and have 996,000 of them go back to Zoom 3 days later because they didn't
No.
have a great experience. It's not
Mm-hmm.
worth it for us. We want to do this the right way.
Yeah, I love that. Can you explain, Tony? Because I know you'll explain it so much better than I ever could, but kind of this flywheel effect in the sense of the revenue that is generated from Rlink. And I will say Rlink's the first project on the Rally blockchain, so I'm keen to get into what might be coming next. But how that revenue that comes in, what it supports, like where does it go? What does it support? How does it bring stability to the
Mhm.
project overall? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the community voted on something called Smart Flow, which basically is we come out of beta, Smart Flow will turn on. And what it means is 100% of the revenue that comes in for product sales and service sales just goes to buy the token out of the open market. It would almost be like if Jeff Bezos said, when you guys check out on Amazon, we're going to take your money and buy Amazon stock. And then
Mhm.
you give us the stock and we'll give you the belt that you wanted or the water bottle or whatever you're buying from Amazon. Now, they don't do that, but if they did, the price of Amazon stock would skyrocket.
Mhm.
Like, it would just go way up because the demand side pressure, there wouldn't be enough people willing to sell stock at, call it $200 a share. So the price would go up. And at 220, maybe there's a few more people that say at 250, maybe I would sell shares of Amazon. It's like, okay, that's where the new price ceiling has just hit. And so they can't do that in a Web 2 environment with a Web 2 company. That's exactly what we do here. My mom
Mm.
runs her credit card for $15. Our banking blockchain will take that $15, go into the market to buy the token, and then the token comes to the community and we'll go, hey mom, thanks for the 10,312 tokens. Here's your meeting platform. If next month each token's $1 a token, this price is skyrocketed. Her $15 credit card swipe gets her 15 tokens. Her 15 tokens comes to the community. The community says, hey mom, thanks for the 15 tokens. Here's your meeting platform. My mom, as a consumer, she doesn't care. She doesn't care whether she got 10,000 tokens or 5,000 tokens or 5 tokens. As long as she swiped her credit card and she gets her meeting platform, she's happy. And so creating that buy side pressure, something that's never really been done. And you talked about that flywheel. As long as you reward revenue generation, you can continue to reward revenue generation. And so what I mean by that is if you introduce us to a company, let's say that was doing, $1 million a month in volume, because they had, tens of thousands of users on our platforms or whatever, it's an algorithm that would say, okay, Nick, you brought us that big client. And so now that client's buying all these tokens, sending them to the community. And then the community algorithm goes, okay, it was Nick that brought us this client. Here's a bunch of these tokens for you.
Hmm.
And the reason our algorithm does that is because if you get a bunch of tokens after doing something like that, and the tokens are valuable, you may continue to do that behavior. You may go, oh, let me bring another. I've got another big company that I could introduce to this platform. And you bring them, and they do $100,000 a month, not as big, but still good size. Well, that $100,000 worth of tokens comes to the community. The community says, well, Nick, here's some for the big company you gave us, and here's some for the
Hmm.
medium-sized company you gave us, And so if you reward that revenue generating behavior, it's likely you will get repeating of that revenue generating behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's what we spoke about before. It's like what is driving the value and how do you take the value back to those who are driving it, who are contributing to it. As I think again, we forget little by little we've given away our data, we've given away our control, we've given away ownership, we've given away value.
Yeah.
Like I even just think of Facebook. I'm like, my mum wouldn't be on there without me, right? But did I get
Yeah,
rewarded
yeah,
for
for
that?
sure.
No. And then that led to other people and all the rest of it. And we're doing this stuff every day unknowingly, that we're building value without gaining value because we don't have ownership. And that's what really blockchain allows us to do. What's coming for Rally blockchain? Because I know like Rlink is one project, right? So if we even if it only took, I don't know, 2, 3, 5% of Zoom's market share, right? It doesn't, I
Sure.
think this is a thing that I understood. I'm like, it doesn't have to knock the giant over straight away to be a winner,
Sure.
right? But it's
Yeah.
also only one project. Like we're talking about a communications blockchain. So for the new person to understand this with where this could potentially go, what else are we looking at on the Rally blockchain that drives the growth that you're talking about, the value, the transactions, the revenue, eventually buy side pressure in the market, all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, revenue can come from a lot of different areas,
Mm,
different things. Um, we bought, if this is the Zoom killer, like our Rlink platform, we bought the rights to what I would call the TikTok killer,
mhm.
which it's called Pixa. And Pix is a social selling app. So like I can show you guys, like if I'm scrolling through here and I want to buy, sleds to go sledding or a motorcycle or pet food or whatever it is I'm buying or a water bottle, and I click shop and it pulls up and I can go, buy the motorcycle or a t-shirt or the water bottle or whatever it is. I click it, and then I can use my credit card, or if I have the token, the Rally token, I can use the Rally token. But 100% of the revenue that comes through the purchasing on those social selling apps, it goes in to buy the token. So we're creating that buy side pressure. So whether it's a meeting platform that got sold, or whether it's like, hey, I want to buy a water bottle, or hey, I want to boost my post and I want more people to see it. With TikTok, I think everyone knows if you use TikTok, your data is going to China. Like
Straight to
that's who owns
China.
TikTok. That's who
Hmm.
controls everyone's data. So if I have a choice again to let my data go to China or to control my own data and make some money off my own data, that's better than letting China make money off of my data.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge project. I think you're looking at, an estimated market cap for somebody like TikTok's like $400 billion, way bigger than Zoom. And so there's bigger opportunity there. I think around 30% of the retail market in China right now is social selling, meaning
Huge.
you're watching a video and in the video you go, oh, that's a really cool mirror. What if everyone here could click on the mirror with their finger and it would pull up and let them buy that exact mirror that's in the back of my
Mm,
wall there? And it's like, and what if I got a piece of the pie? What if I got a little commission from the mirror company because they tracked that, hey, through blockchain technology, Tony was doing a meeting. Nick clicked on the mirror. She bought the mirror. We shipped it to Australia. Send $10 to Tony because it's a really nice mirror and it's
wow.
expensive. And let's pay him a little rip. And that way he'll always set up his deal with the mirror. As silly as that sounds, that's 30% of the retail market in the country of China right now. Like that's so cool. Like people are going to be buying like that. I think 100% of the retail markets will eventually go that way, where people will just be watching TV. I want to buy that. I want to buy that. And you'll just be able to pick it up
Yes.
right then and there. And people that do the actual exposure will get paid for that.
Mhm.
And so, that's a huge project. I think, we've got a decentralized like WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal messenger app that'll be coming around the pipeline here pretty soon. And again, blockchain based technology, if you really value security,
Mhm.
you will never be more secure than using blockchain technology. I don't know if you kept up on it, but Telegram's owner and founder, the French government arrested him basically and said, "Hey, you have to share everyone's Telegram messaging data with the French government, or any other government that's requesting it, or we're going to put you in prison until you do." And he ended up sharing it, which I would have too. you know, um, I don't blame him. But if the French government picked me up and we had our blockchain app and they said, "Hey, we want all of Nick's messages,"
Mhm.
if it's blockchain, the problem for me would be like, listen, you can throw me in prison, you can torture me, you can do whatever you want. I can't get to her messages. Like, I don't have access. Our company doesn't have access. She has a private key. She logs into her fully encrypted blockchain wallet, and all of her messages are in there. And the only person on planet Earth that knows how to get in there is her. So if you want her messages, you're going to need to talk to her. She's the only person on planet Earth, unless she gave her 12 seed phrase to her mom, then you could go get her mom and her mom
Go
could
get a
help you
mum.
get in there. But literally, yeah, but
That is
literally,
huge,
I
isn't
got
it? Yeah.
no access. I mean, and I think,
Mm.
more and more we realize that we're being listened to, like, like at all times, and it's like blockchain can solve that
Yeah,
issue and make it so we really are secure again.
absolutely. Tony, last couple of questions for you. And this is, no one has a crystal ball and no one, this is not advice. You can't tell people what to do with their time, with their money, with what it is. I think the best thing that, like you said, go and do research, go and understand this. I remember it was 20 months ago now. And I was first on a call with you, and my business partner and I, when we got off, we said, okay, we need to clock out 20 hours. We always do 20 hours of research into the thing, the project, the partnership, whatever it is that we're looking at. And at that time, the Rally blockchain was just launching, and I bought my first nodes. So it was in idea phase, right? There wasn't the tokens, and
Sure.
there wasn't even the platform yet. It was building
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah, we probably did a
already,
Zoom. We probably did a Zoom to
yeah,
show you.
exactly. We were. And so even just that 20 hours of research, I'm like, oh, I need to own these nodes, this software and be part of this
hmm
infrastructure, this technology. And since then, I now have 23 nodes. And I say that because
Nice.
that is how much I believe in where this technology is going, but more so this ecosystem of projects and
Right.
specifically with Rlink. If everything goes the way you believe it's going to go, what does success look like in the next 2 to 5 years within this particular project?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't really look at coin price, anything like that. That's kind of, I guess, for me, irrelevant. Um, it comes down to revenue for me,
Mm.
and I've definitely been blessed. I've built, several billion-dollar companies, um, and it is surreal, to think about those numbers. You kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's not something that I was shooting for. Like I didn't have a goal. Like I'm gonna build this accounting firm to $1 billion. That was the first $1 billion company we had built, then a marketing firm after that, and then with credit card processing, just the amount of processing, we'd done billions of dollars in that as well. But um, the funny thing as an entrepreneur, I think it was a shift in focus. I say laser focused on revenue generation for sure, no doubt. That's probably one of the only things I focus on when I'm building in the building phase of a business is revenue generation. I don't worry that much about efficiencies. If I can drive a lot of revenue, I can overpay employees. I can overpay for software and systems,
So
and then
true.
I can clean
Mm.
up afterwards. I kind of call it, controlled chaos for a while when I'm in the middle of a build. But before I focus on revenue, the main thing I focus on is value add. Can I add value to the client first and foremost? Can I add value to the sales force, the people that bring the client? And can I add value to the support staff, the employees, the contractors that are supporting the sales staff and that are servicing the clients, the customer service side? And so if I can check those three boxes and I can add value across the board, I know I can win. And here, I think it's one of the easiest platforms and projects with something like Rlink, the communications blockchain, being able to add value to the user. That's easy. I mean, we're crushing them on price. We're crushing them on the actual presentation and conversion. We're crushing them on the technology. Let you own it, let you own your data, and let you make money off your data, let you get rewarded just for using and sharing the platform with others. We're absolutely adding value to the client. And then if you bring us clients, you're getting an override every single month, every single day that client sends a payment in, you're getting an override. It's an algorithm. There's no owner to write you a check or to say, oh, Nick didn't work that hard this month, we're going to lay her off. That doesn't exist here. It's just algorithms. It's just this wallet. It wouldn't even know your name. It would just know your wallet ID. And you're the only one that has access to it. It'd say this wallet ID brought in this much revenue, did this many people who also brought in this much revenue, gets this percentage of the rev share that day, and it just ships those amount of tokens into your
Awesome.
wallet. And then it does it again. And again, if you want to hand your wallet to your daughter or your son or your grandson or your granddaughter, then the tokens that get into that wallet are now their tokens.
Mhm.
And so, being able to add value to the sales force, that's a no-brainer here. And I think the people that support, if you look at our CEO, if you look at our chief marketing officer, if you look at our lead developer, like all of these people accept our token as pay. So they believe in what we're doing, and they get rewarded with a token, which if we pull this off and we drive revenue, which is really what success looks like to me, is building another multi-billion-dollar company. And if every month hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars a month in revenue are going in to our project and going in to buy a token, the token price will take care of itself.
Mhm.
It'll be one of the best cryptocurrencies on planet Earth. But for me, I think the best thing about this definition of success is, for the first time in my life, in a cryptocurrency or blockchain based project, I can actually move the needle. You can actually move the needle. Like, I'm not Elon Musk. I can't tweet about Dogecoin and make it go up. Like, I wish I could tweet about a token and make the price go up. I'm just not that important. But I knew I could add 1 million users onto a meeting platform like Rlink. I knew I could get introduced to someone like you who maybe could add more users than I could. Like, at the end of the day, the more of us that come together as a community and start spreading the word that, hey, you don't have to let your data just be owned by these huge corporations and these huge governments. You could take control of that. And I think, like you said earlier, the education narrative is so crucial for what we're doing. But success for me, if we educate, if we build those communities, we're going to build a multi-billion-dollar company. And if we do that, everything else will take care of itself.
I love that so much. What would you, I'd love to know, what would you tell yourself going back a few years, like your pre-blockchain self, knowing everything that you know now, being in this build, going full force within this space? What would you tell your pre-blockchain old self?
Oh, you always want to close the learning curve. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
still learning things about blockchain, about dev. I think, it's maybe kind of a joke, but not a joke, is like, if you've worked in development, you would tell yourself, if your developers tell you that it'll be ready by December 1st, tell people February 1st, just to hedge your bets a little bit. There's definitely times in this project for sure where I've been like, hey, we talked to our devs, it's going to be ready by August 1st. And then it's like, all right, did I say August? I think I meant October 1st. And then it's ready by October 1st. And so, but I don't really look back, so to speak, at what I would tell myself in the past. Um, I look at what would I tell a new person now. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I can't change how things went through in the past. I can't change, kind of where we got, and I don't think I would, because of what
No.
you learn
Mm.
and the things that you go through. Maybe some of the trials and tribulations were needed. Maybe the timing, if we would have gotten everything right too quickly, the market timing might not have lined up. And so I think God's always kind of got the plan, and I just try and follow it. But what I would tell myself if I came in today and saw this type of project is similar to probably what you, as a successful entrepreneur, and your partner have told yourselves. I would say, hey, put your 20 hours in. Like, I put about, gosh, October of 23, it was December right after Christmas, when October 23, the day I saw the platforms and everything, I bought $3 million worth of nodes.
Mm.
I spent the next 2 months going through everything I could get on Web3 and blockchain.
Yep.
Any free time I had was around learning and understanding what was happening with that Web3 shift. And then around December 27th or so, I purchased another $50 million worth of node software. So it ended up being $53 million total. And so I think the reason I did that is probably the same reason you did what you did early, is because you had knowledge.
Mhm.
And the best decisions are made with the most information. So I would always tell new people to dig in. Dig in. Listen, it may not be something that you end up doing. It may be something you pass on, but at least you'll understand it before you pass on it. And it might be something that you do, and maybe it's something that you can not only do, but you can help influence the community. You can help kind of stack the deck in your own favor and help to build the platform and the project. And so I just tell people to dig in, start learning, figure out as much as you can about Web3, about blockchain, about R-Link, about the Rally blockchain. And once you have that information, you'll probably come to the same conclusions that Nick did, that I did, and many other people. We've got, close to probably 100,000 people that are in our organization in the blockchain space that have come to the conclusion that, hey, this is inevitable. And
Mhm.
I don't know who the Amazon's going to be. I don't know who the Google's going to be, but it's going to be somebody. And I just figured, why not us? If it's somebody's going to be the big players, why not us?
Yep. I love that so much, and such great advice as well. I mean, I think that's a thing, we hear these words, we know this world is coming, and you can either put your head in the sand or you can just put your hours in. And my 23 nodes aren't stacking up against your 53 million, but you got to start where you're at. And I think that's, for me, when I saw this, I also saw the opportunity. Like my mum and dad have nodes, my brother has nodes, people I
Sure.
love. And so I don't say that lightly, because no,
I give
nothing is
nodes out for
guaranteed.
Christmas. it's I
Absolutely.
give,
Best gift you could give. Best gift you
yeah,
could give. I'm always opening
keeps
gifts
on
like that,
giving.
Tony, just so you know.
You bet.
But
There you go. There you go.
it's true. And even, people I love, women within our Women to Wealth community, and no, like, I can't tell them this is exactly what is going to happen and this is why. And no one has a crystal ball or anything like that. But this was where I saw the opportunity for the everyday person to truly have ownership and really be involved in what I believe is, as you said, it's the next evolution. It's the next iteration of where we are going, with technology, and
Yeah.
it's powerful. It's really powerful. So, Tony, thank you so much for joining me on this call. I have no doubt we'll be chatting again soon. Would love to do another one, as Arlink keeps building, as we keep building the community and growing, and we'll do some more updates soon.
Sounds good, Nick. Thanks for having me on. And I'm definitely looking forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thanks so much, Tony.